You know me, it's your boy Craig, aka the MIC, and welcome to this episode 11 of your favorite weekly wrestling roundup podcast. This is Calling the Spots, the podcast where I take wrestling and round it up weekly. On today's episode, we will be talking Crown Jewel, we will be talking TNA Bound for Glory, and we will be talking about that what happened on Monday Night Raw today, if you're watching as it airs. But before we get into it, just want to let you know that I'm on the lookout for a permanent co-host, someone to join me to chat about wrestling, to have a conversation each week. Be part of the podcast. So if you're interested in being a podcaster, if you're already a podcaster or if you want to be one, drop me a message. Let's chat it up and let's try and try and build something here. But again, I'm looking for a guest co-host, a permanent co-host. Sorry. So drop me a message if you're interested, and yeah, let's get into it, I guess. But before we do, actually, if you don't already, please drop a subscribe, and here on YouTube if you're watching, and on Spotify if you're listening. I appreciate all goes towards the algorithm, and as we know around here, algorithm is king. But without any further ado, let's get into episode 11 of Calling the Spots. And we have to talk about Crown Jewel, taking place last Saturday. Of course, this won't be an in-depth review. I don't really like doing majorly in-depth reviews on things. This will just be it's a roundup of it, my thoughts on the things I enjoyed, things I didn't enjoy, and just a general debrief, I suppose you could call it. Let's call it a debrief. Why not? Let's call it a debrief on the wrestling shows that take place on a weekly basis. And so of course it was Crown Jewel first, taking place in Perth, Australia. We had an Australian street fight. We had uh, tag matches. We had the two men's and women's Crown Jewel matches. Uh, and we had John Cena, AJ Styles. And that's really what I want to focus on here. John Cena versus AJ Styles. One last time. A love letter to professional wrestling. And it was perfect. It was perfect. It had everything you'd want as a wrestling fan. I know I did a brief video of the episode of The One Thing about this match, but it was honestly perfect. Uh like I said previously, I don't really like the term mark because it's been used to just downplay wrestling fandom. You're allowed to be a wrestling fan without being a mark, but I I feel like I'm marked out for this one because it had everything. It had tributes to the important opponents of these two throughout their careers. Of course, we had the Skull Crushing finale. We had the Stinger Splash, the Scorpion Death Drop, an RKO, the DDT from the Hangman DDT. We had uh, the Angel's Wings, but of course we had the Sister Abigail. But I'll get into that in a little bit more detail in a second because I want to talk about this one first. AJ Styles hit the Fade to Black, the finishing move of Frankie Kazarian. And when a lot of people, some people noticed it, but a lot of people who did videos on it or have talked about this match seem to ignore or haven't paid attention to the Fade to Black. Frankie Kazarian's finishing move, one of AJ Styles' most underrated opponents, if you ask me. Certainly one of his biggest rivals. That's why he did the move in the match. But that move, that's Frankie Kazarian's move. You have to, if you're a wrestling fan, you know who Frankie Kazarian is. A pillar of TNA wrestling. One of the greatest X Division champions of all time. Like, he is the king of TNA, and it's not just him saying it. How do you ignore or just like miss out that move belonged to Frankie Kazarian? It bugged me more than I wanted it to, because it was just it got ignored by the majority of people, and that frustrated me a little bit. I can't deny it. That frustrated me more than I wanted it to. But Frankie Kazarian and AJ Styles have had bangers in TNA, and Kazarian Kazarian doesn't get enough credit as is, without him getting less credit when AJ Styles is paying tribute to him. Yeah, it kind of. I try not to get bogged down in these things too much, because I know wrestling is wrestling, and not everyone knows everyone. But if you know the Angels' Wings, you should know the Fade to Black. Maybe that's just my opinion. I'm sure you can let me know whether that was just my opinion. But yeah, I didn't like the fact Kazarian got ignored to an extent by the majority of people because of. I get it. It was a very finisher-heavy match, and it was a love letter to professional wrestling. And paying tribute to everyone was amazing, particularly the Bray Wyatt Sister Abigail from John Cena to Styles. It was beautiful. It's been a very emotional weekend of wrestling. A lot of tributes being paid, a lot of final matches, a lot of last time evers, and to see, uh, yeah, to see Cena deliver Sister Abigail hit me harder than I was expecting it to. When he got in position for the Abigail, I had my head in my hands, like, oh, this is incredible. Massive shout out to Bray. We love Bray. Then massive shout out to Perth for bringing out the Fireflies and singing the song. It was incredible to watch. Might be one of my favorite moments of the year. Up there with Paris singing the White Six song. That was special. And a lot of people are saying that AJ should have got the win. AJ will get his moments. This is John Cena. John Cena was always going to win this match, regardless of who it was against. This was always meant to be his 100th PLE win. So regardless of who he faced, Cena was winning this match. But it's nice they tied it in with his last match against AJ Styles, and a tribute to everyone they consider to be their greatest rivals. Cena was always going to win it, and AJ will get his time because he confirmed he's retiring next year. Cena has 4 dates left. I'm not ready for it. It's been an emotional weekend as it is, like I said, and now we have 4 dates left for John Cena. He retires in December. I'm not ready for it. I'm not ready for it. But seeing an AJ Styles was incredible, and yeah, pro wrestling. It's pretty cool. Uh, also on Crown Jewel, we had obviously the Crown Jewel Championship matches. The women's Stephanie Vaquer and uh, Stephanie Vaquer beating Tiffany Stratton to win the Women's Crown Jewel Championship. Really good match. Not much else I can say in it. Expected a win from Stephanie, to be honest. So all in all, standard. But Cody versus Seth. That is how a Crown Jewel Championship match should be. That's what it should be about. You know, if you're local to the UK, then uh, I forget the page, but someone described it as the equivalent of the community shield in football in the UK, which is very very valid. You got one champion versus one champion to win something that doesn't really matter, and because you only get to hold it once a year, so it doesn't really matter all that much. And that's a whole other video on its own, the validity of the Crown Jewel Championship. But that's just is what it is. But the story they told, I'm not the biggest Cody fan. If anything, I'm kind of bored of Cody. But this is how you do those matches. This is what it should be about. It shouldn't just be a friendly. There should be something behind it. Obviously, Seth had more to prove than Cody did, but this is how it should be. Seth using the watch, thinking about using the watch, but then not using it, and then finally using it. This is how it should be, and I enjoyed it more than I was expecting to. Of course, we had Rhea Ripley and Io Sky against the Kabuki Warriors. That's a story I'm enjoying. Rhea and Io are always going to win. Nice for Rhea to tag Io in to get the win, get the pin. And my goodness, Asuka, Kairi, and Io were not holding back. Proper strong style. I was here for it. I enjoyed that aspect of this match. Seeing them just lay into each other. No slapping of the legs. They were connecting. And I was here for every part of that. Of course, Rhea getting the biggest pop of the night, of course. It's to be expected. But yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of this match. All in all, Crown Jewel was a better show than WrestlePalooza was, but there's not a lot of competition in it if you're being completely honest. This was a very good show. Not the best show they've ever put on, but not the worst Crown Jewel either. All in all, I'll probably give it a 7 out of 10. It was enjoyable, but ultimately the Crown Jewel match is just a little bit pointless. But hey, they're bowing down to their Saudi overlords. So I suppose Mrs. Sky's going to be okay with it. It's happening, and that's the thing. Again, I don't really want to get into the Saudi stuff, but they know full well people are going to watch this. They know this. You can complain all you like, and we should be complaining. I don't know. It shouldn't be happening, but it's going to happen, and they know people will watch. it's just a fact. People will watch. They're global. People are going to watch this, and there's not a lot we can do about it. It's just yeah, just a moving on thing, I guess. There's not a lot. I say there's not a lot we can really do about it. But uh, I just want to mention one thing before we move on to Bound for Glory. WWE can come off as out of touch quite easily. And I think this was proven at the start of Crown Jewel when they played the American national anthem. Not a smart move. I don't want to get political, but it was not the best look. It comes across very obnoxious. You're not in America. But, yeah, I didn't like it. It felt very, yeah. And Australian fans let them know as well. The Australians let them know, even on the post show when they're wanting edge. Australians will let you know, and they did. So full credit to Australians for this one. It was very very lively crowd, which I'm always here for. But now let's move it on over to last night's TNA Bound for Glory. For me, it was a very mixed show, mixed feelings on this show. A lot of the matches in the early part felt rushed. Steve Macklin and Kazarian. As much as I love Steve Macklin, I think Macklin is great. Was putting the international title on Kazarian just so that title will be seen on NXT TV? Was that the reason they put the international title on Frankie Kazarian so Kazarian could walk out of it on WWE TV? If so, it feels a bit. Once again, Kazarian feeling underappreciated and underutilized in a lot of aspects. But yeah, Steve Macklin is the international champion again. Then had a couple of other matches. Like, a lot of them weren't very memorable. The Corey Shot Gauntlet. I wouldn't say any major surprises in this match. Uh, Other than the Rascals being one entry, which I thought was very good. Santino coming in and going straight back out again, to like throw back to the Rumble spot with the I wasn't ready. Frankie Kazarian taking out Jody Threat to take her place in the Gauntlet. And of course, the finish came. It was down to Nick Nemeth and Frankie Kazarian. A double pin. We have Coil Shot Gauntlet winners. The crowd were not happy about it. I wasn't happy about it, to be honest. I don't like that kind of stuff. But it's not like it hasn't happened before. Obviously, we've had co-Rumble winners in, I think, Bret Hart and Lex Luger. We've had co-champions in TNA when Kazarian and Michael Shane were co-X Division champion. We've had Lay Cool as co-women's champion. But this is a trophy. How do they split this up? They both need a trophy to cash in for a title match. who gets the trophy for the cash in first. I guess I have to wait and see. Um, Hardcore War was a very fun match, but again felt rushed. I feel sorry for John Skyler, the only one that had to blade for that match. I feel sorry for Skyler because he got battered. Some fun spots though. Um, uh, Lish moving out of the way of the 450 from Ali onto the thumbtacks, drawing pins. Um, Eddie with the barbed wire around his knee. Agent Zero coming in and just dominating. Yeah, just some fun, cool spots in this match with the system getting the win. I'm here for it. It was very good. It was a very fun match. But it all kind of felt rushed, including the Knockouts World Title match, the Indy Hartwell versus Kalani Jordan, and Kalani winning, which surprised me and yeah, frustrated me a little. It was, I don't know why, but now I've had time to think about it. I understand a little bit more. It's not like I mentioned it in an earlier video that it feels like it's like Santana and Indy were being pushed, but it wasn't the same level. So maybe Genesis is when Indy Hartwell wins the Knockouts World title. Then they can build it a bit more because I said during the match because it was quite quiet in the crowd, and I said that's probably because this match hasn't had time to build. It was supposed to be, it could have potentially been JC James as Indy Hartwell, but then it was supposed to be Indy Hartwell versus Ash by Elegance. Unfortunately, Ash had to retire. Kalani winning it at Victory Road 2 weeks ago. I understand a little bit to help build this feud. I'm not the biggest Kalani Jordan fan, but I understand it a bit more. Like I said, it's showing me very mixed feelings, and I want to get the X Division Championship match. Leon Slater, Joanne Evans. First 20 minutes might be one of the best matches I've seen this year. Genuinely edge of my seat. I said these two will pull off some insane stuff, and they did. You name it, they pulled it off. They were outside when the bell rang because the 20-minute time limit was up. Shout out Santina Marella for giving us 5 more minutes. Leon hit the big play later, the coast to coast, post to post dive to the outside over the ring post. Brought Javon back in. Looked like Leon was going for the Swanton 450 before Javon pulled him down with a Spanish fly off the top rope. Javon going for the cover when the lights go out. It was Dark State. NXT's Dark State. They ruined this match for Dark State. For Dark State. The most talked about matches in TNA history. AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, and Samoa Joe. This match could have been that level. This could have been Josh Alexander, Will Ospreay. But in order to keep this feud going, they had to introduce Dark State. That pissed me off. It's laziness. You want to build the feud, so you have it end in a no contest. If you're going to do that, why not just let it end at a 20-minute time limit? Why give us 5 more minutes just to have it end the same way? Playing it off as revenge from Dark State for the Hardys taking the TNA tag title, the NXT tag titles. It pissed me off. I was so excited for this match. As someone, as a TNA fan who really doesn't like when someone from NXT takes one of the TNA titles, I had accepted Javon winning because he is so good that as much as I know it would damage Leon's momentum, seeing Javon win, I know he could have carried that on a little bit. The no limits of the X division. Javon, that title would have been in safe hands with Javon Evans. So had they gone that route, I would have been okay with it, provided Leon got it back. Or have Leon beat Javon and build it off Leon telling Javon that you can't beat me. Build it off that. Don't ruin it by having Dark State attack for no reason. I don't want to rant too much about this, but this match could have been one of TNA's greatest ever matches. And it's ruined by Dark State. It pissed me off. It didn't need to happen that way. That's 2 things from this show. 3 things where I was left a bit miffed, confused, annoyed. 3 things. It didn't need to happen that way. Didn't need to happen that way. Yeah, it just felt wrong. Felt wrong. Uh, um, then after, oh, after it was one final table. Team 3D, the Dudleys, against the Hardys, Matt and Jeff, for the TNA and NXT Tag Team Championships. One final table. The Dudleys coming out in their Dudley gear, the camo, the glasses, bringing a table with them. Spike coming back. It's already an emotional start. Hardy's bringing out a ladder. Hardy's in the camo and the cargos. They bring out a ladder and chair. They set it up. We know how this is ending. The bell rings, and for a good 5 minutes, the crowd are on their feet. This is awesome. Holy shit. Just taking in the moment. This is the last time we're going to see the Hardys versus the Dudleys. Mackenzie Mitchell, by the way, shout out Mackenzie Mitchell, listing off all their achievements from both teams, and them being able to be introduced as the Dudleys. That was a very cool moment. Shout out to Devon for even doing this. Again, this one was quick, but I understand why this one had to be quicker. Starting off very quickly, the Dudleys pulling out their greatest hits in the first 10 minutes. Well, first 8 minutes maybe. We get a 3D to Matt. Matt's out. Devon goes up for the wazap on Jeff Hardy. 3D for the table to Jeff. Then just more back and forth. The Hardys beating the living daylights out of Bubba Ray with the chairs. The two tables set up on the rampway. The ladder just above it. Jeff Hardy standing on the ladder with the Bound for Glory logo on the big screen behind him. The shot of the biggest crowd in North America for TNA in ever. Drops a swanton bomb to Devon through a table off the ladder. We're getting the hits. And then, yeah, like I said, the Hardys just beat the living daylights out of Bully with the table, the chairs. It looks like they're going to go for a concerto on Bully, but they just drop the chairs and put it off the table. Hardys retain the TNA and NXT tag team titles. And afterwards, again, standing ovation. As the Hardys are going to leave, the Dudleys pull them back and they take off their boots. The Dudleys give the Hardys their boots. I love professional wrestling. These were four men. Their careers are forever tied to each other because of matches like that, because of TLC, because of the tables match at the Rumble. And for the Dudleys to go out like this, and for it to happen at TNA, special. It's as a kid, I watched it's like 2000, 2001. Shout out if anyone who remembers the SmackDown highlights being on Sky One on a Sunday morning. I would watch just to see what the Dudleys got up to. And I remember loving the Devon get the tables. my family loving it. I'm. These are four men who knew how to tell a story, knew they couldn't go at their absolute peak, but knew how to play it, knew how to do it the best way they knew possible to make it special. Team 3D, the Hardys, Team 3D, the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, two of the greatest tag teams that's ever existed. Yeah, I love professional wrestling. It's a very special thing. It's very special. If you love it, you love it. Regardless of the company, regardless of who should be getting pushed and who's not getting pushed, this is professional wrestling. And it was fantastic to watch. Fantastic to watch. Then the main event came. Trick Williams, Mike Santana, TNA World Championship. Even though I've been saying this is Santana's winning, Santana's going to win the world title, Bound for Glory. There's still a part of me that thought they're not going to do it, are they? Even with Conan walking Santana to the ring, even with Santana's daughter being at ringside, but they're not going to do this. There's a strong chance they're not going to do this, but they did it. Mike Santana's the TNA World Champion. That's the redemption story. Throw it back to 2018 when Santana and Ortiz ran through TNA as part of LAX with Conan, with Homicide, with Eddie Kingston, with Low Key for a little bit. When you looked at the tag team, again, one of the greatest tag teams in TNA history. One of the most cohesive teams I've ever seen. But everyone knew there was something special about Santana. Everyone knew this. When they left TNA, I was gutted because I know they've done the tag team stuff. I know that's all. I know that's they've done. They've completed the tag team stuff in TNA. 4-time TNA tag team champions. But I wanted to see what they could do singles. Then when Santana returned, I knew this was it. This is it. Didn't know when, but I knew it was going to happen. And it happened. A lot happened in the match, but one big spin the block later, Mike Santana is the TNA World Champion. But before Carlos Silva could finally give a TNA guy the world title, finally, by the way, Nick Nemeth's music hit. He walks out the Corey Shot trophy. Stands on the rampway, puts it down on the floor, takes his jacket off. Again, lights go out. It's Elijah, former Elias. Takes out Nemeth with the guitar shot, but Kazarian's in the ring. But he doesn't have the Corey Shot trophy. Mike Santana spins Kazarian's block and finally gets the TNA World Championship. Yeah, very cool moment. Max Santana, TNA World Champion, finally. Wrestling is really cool. Wrestling is really cool. Yeah, it's yeah, it's great. Wrestling is really 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 cool. All in all, for Bound for Glory, I'm going to give it an 8. Enjoyed it more than I enjoyed Crown Jewel. There's a few things that were a bit hit and miss, but then the stuff that hit really hit. So I'm going to give it an 8. Uh, I know I said I was going to talk about Raw, and okay, let's talk about Raw very, very briefly. CM Punk's the new number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. Uh, after beating Jey Uso and LA Knight in Triple Threat, Seth Rollins and the Vision come out. Of course they do. They open and close the show now. They take out everyone. Well, Bronson and Breakker take out everyone around ringside. And as a standing tall, we get the copyright thing in the corner. Next Monday, Sacramento. Bron Breakker walks to the corner and spears Seth Rollins out of his shoes. He tells Bronson Reed, "You're with me or against me." Bronson Reed pulls Seth Rollins out of the corner and drops him in the tsunami. Breakker tells Heyman, "You're with me or against me." Heyman raises their hand with Breakker holding the World Heavyweight Championship. The Division's done. Well, certainly the division as we know it is done. Happened quickly. Happened sooner than people were expecting. But it's done. Huge moment. Huge. But is it too early? Shout out to Deep Queasy at the HCW show. Cause I didn't think about this. That it's probably going to lead to uh, a forced tag team of CM Punk and Seth Rollins, and which then led me to think maybe potentially War Games match too, if Jey Uso turns on Jimmy, which seems possible. But yeah, it was one hell of a moment. One hell of a moment, and I want to see Bron Breakker as the World Heavyweight Champion more than I want to see Seth Rollins as World Heavyweight Champion. But yeah, let me know what you think about all that. Like I said, it's been a busy old week of wrestling. Busy old week. We had the return of Tama Tonga, SmackDown, and the MFT making their targets, setting their sights on the WWE Tag Team Championships of the White Six. What's next for the division? Because I really don't know. I'm hoping it is a World Heavyweight Championship run for Bron Breakker. But yeah, you have to let me know on that one. All right, I think we're gonna call that a podcast. Appreciate you for stopping by. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the episode. And like I said earlier in the show, I am looking for a permanent co-host. So if you're interested, drop me a message, drop a comment here, or you can find me. Uh, Hoping I've managed to sort everything out, so you now have my social media handles above, so you can drop your follow and subscribe. All goes towards the algorithm. Drop a comment on Spotify for listening, and yeah, I'll catch you on the next one. I've been the MIC. I appreciate it, my friends, and I'll catch you very, very soon. Goodbye for now.